Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I have not put out a podcast in a few weeks. As many of you know, my daddy passed away on July 10th, and he was in the hospital for about a month before that, and I was with him there every day. I feel so blessed to have gotten to be there with him during that time. And today's podcast is a little different because I'm by myself. I want to share his story. He had an amazingly beautiful story of how God walked him home, and it deserves to be shared. So I'm going to do my best to share that. Anyway, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who sent food, flowers, came by for visits, who came to the services or sent cards or made phone calls or sent text messages. But most of all, I want to thank everybody for the prayers while he was in the hospital, during all the arrangements and services, and then especially, still after. And I want to talk about, first of all, the podcast is called Healed, and you may be thinking, how is this healing? Like, your dad passed away. But I know where my daddy is. He's in heaven, and we are promised in heaven that we will be healed. We'll get a new body, we get a new home, we get a new name, and there's no pain or sorrow or suffering or anything like that in heaven. So this is the very definition of healing, of a healing that we're all working towards. So I definitely consider my daddy healed. In fact, one of the first things I said after he passed away, because daddy always had a hard time hearing, I said, "Daddy can hear." So anyway, I want to share this story with you. I'll do my best. I didn't wear any mascara today if you're watching on YouTube, just in case. So if you hear my voice quiver, you'll know why. So I got a call. Well, my daddy had started running a fever. And of course, this is 2020, crazy year. And so everybody was like, "Oh no, does he have COVID? Go get a test," and all this stuff. So he went to the doctor. He got a COVID test and a strep test and a flu test, and everything was negative. And he went to the emergency room. He wasn't feeling well. He was running a high fever. So they admitted him, and the night that they admitted him, he started having severe stomach pain. And the next morning, I got a phone call at 5 a.m. that they were taking him into emergency surgery, that he had a perforated bowel. So basically, he had his small intestines had a hole that had torn in it. He had an ulcer, unknowingly. We didn't know this. And the ulcer had ruptured and caused a hole in his small intestines. So a very challenging illness for a young person. Daddy was 79, and he had heart health issues. He had a couple of stents, and he had a defibrillator. And so anyway, we rushed to the hospital, and he came through the surgery great. He did great. When we got to see him, all his vital signs were good. In fact, his vital signs stayed good through the entire thing. Here's the problem. Your small intestines, in order for this surgery to heal, they need to kind of dry up. But that's where you actually get your nutrition from. That's where your body absorbs its nutrition, is in the small intestines. So a very complicated, hard, long recovery process. The recovery is like 6 to 8 months for a regular person who heals well. So Daddy had a couple of abscesses that formed. He had some complications in that department. His surgery it never really healed itself. It was kind of complicated, but anyway, there's a portion of the healing that his body had to do on its own. And we found out the day he passed away that it really had not done that at all. But anyway, so he could not have anything to eat or drink. He had IV fluids. He got an IV tube that for feeding, intravenous feeding, and then he had a drain that went down his nose and throat into his stomach that would kind of like suck all the fluid out so it could dry out and heal. So I guess about 2 weeks into this, after his surgery, Daddy woke up really frustrated. He had a terrible night. He was very frustrated all night and was just mad and angry. He pulled his tube out and wanted those tubes out of him. He was frustrated. He was done with it. And so I went in there that day, and I really hadn't talked to him about what the doctors were saying, his prognosis. This is during COVID. So at this time, there were 2 people allowed in the hospital, but only one at a time. A lot of times that wouldn't be when the doctor came. The doctor, he had a great surgeon, but he did rounds early a lot of times. So anyways, he had pulled out this drain and was super frustrated, and I decided I needed to talk to him about what was going on spiritually and physically with him. So I had a conversation with him that day, and I said, Daddy, I want you to know that the surgery that you had is a really, really hard surgery, and it's got a long, hard recovery for everyone who goes through it. So what you're experiencing is normal for what happened to you. And I want you to know that your vital signs are all good. Everything, even things that weren't good before this, seem to be good right now. But I know you're frustrated, and I know you want water, and this is hard. But I said, the doctors are not saying that you're dying. And I want you to know that. My advice to you, this is what I told Daddy, and my advice to you, I said, if you see Jesus, my advice to you is that you run to him. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I think you should do. But nothing here is saying that you're dying unless you're hearing something different from the Lord. And he said, well, he's been talking to me. And I said, what's he been saying? And he said that the Lord has told him to keep going. And I said, well, no matter how hard that is, then that's what we have to do. We have to keep going. But you're not doing this alone. We're all here with you. Most of us were out in the parking garage at UT Hospital, but we're all here. When you get frustrated, let us know. Let us pray over you. Let us do the things that we can do to walk this with you so you don't feel alone. And he agreed. And then the Thursday before he passed away on Friday, the day before he passed away, he woke up at 3:00 in the morning. Now, keep in mind, during this whole visit, because of the tubes that had been down his throat and things, and because he was so dehydrated, Daddy got so dehydrated, his poor little tongue peeled off twice. That's an ugly thing to happen. But he could hardly talk, and he had been saying sentences, like one sentence at a time, and he had kind of, because he had had a couple of different tests or procedures and nothing major, and that tube had been down his throat. His throat was really dry and sore. He can hardly talk at all. And the Thursday before he passed away, he woke up at 3:00 in the morning. He called 3 of the men he worked with, He worked at Blunt Excavating. He drove heavy equipment. He was like a big kid playing in the dirt, and he absolutely loved his job. He was still working when this happened, before he got sick. And he woke up and called 3 men that he worked with. And he had a conversation with 2 of them. Not words, not short sentences, a conversation. And I feel like the Lord allowed that. But he told the men, he called his boss and he said, I'm not coming back to work. I'm not going to make it. I'm not getting well. I'm not going home. The Lord has told me this is my time, and I've made peace with it. And that's a lot of words for somebody who, when the whole time that we were there, could hardly get a word or 2 out. So I felt like that was so beautiful, because I feel like God allowed that, not for Daddy, but necessarily, but for the men that he worked with and was close to. He was close to the people he worked with. And anyway, my brother got to the hospital that day about 8:30, and Daddy told him, the Lord told me it's time. And Chris and myself and Mama all kind of tried to argue with Daddy. We thought maybe he was just discouraged again. And so we tried to tell him, no, everything still looks good and you're still doing good. And, this is just a long process, and we can try different procedures so that you're getting more nutrients. We had a meeting with the doctor and everything. And he just said, don't push it. He would not discuss the spiritual side of things any longer. He said it was his time. Now, we had the meeting with the doctor, and he just sat there and kind of agreed to whatever. I don't think he cared, really. I think he just knew that it was his time. And anyway, so during the day while I'm sitting with him, he would have his head laying back and have his eyes closed, and he would lean his head up and he would look like he was staring at something really intently far off. And I would say, Daddy, what are you looking at? What do you see? And he would just shake his head and close his eyes and lay his head back down. But I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that he was already seeing heaven. When this life ends and we go on to heaven, if that's where we're going, angels come and get us. And it's a peaceful transition. So although what we were experiencing was, what we went through at the end was terrible, terrible, terrible. But what Daddy experienced at the end was very beautiful and peaceful. And I want to share that with you, because we're all going to face that. God will walk us through that journey. He will walk us into heaven if we have a relationship with him. So I felt like it was important that our family had that open communication and knew what each other believed. But I want to address those of you who maybe don't know that. Talking to somebody about their salvation, there's no good time. There's no right time. Like every time's the right time, but there's no good time. Let me put it that way. But let me tell you why. Because anytime you set your intention that you are going to connect with another person in your family and go to the Lord with something, Satan pops in there. He comes in heavy hit, and he will cause you to doubt. He'll cause your words to stumble. But I want you to know, and this is something I learned more about during this time, that your family, your home, that is your territory. And so if you need to have a conversation with someone about their salvation, the most important thing you can do is pray. Pray that God will speak through you to that person and to yourself. Pray that God will not allow any enemy interference to hinder what he wants to do, and claim that territory for Christ. Like, claim your home for Christ. We claimed that hospital room for Christ. We said, nothing from the evil one is allowed in here, because this is where we have been placed, and God always prepares a place for us. So you have some authority in heaven, and I have a book. It's called The Courts of Heaven. I will post a link to it, but it is an amazing book about how to take authority in Christ. And that's where I learned a lot of that. I have authority over myself and my family and my loved ones. So, and I just want to give you a couple of tips that helped me get through this, because I know there are a lot of other people going through this. So one book that I used a lot it's called Blessing Your Spirit by Sylvia Gunter and Arthur Burke. And these are just blessings that you can read to your loved one. And I have to say that Daddy was definitely the most peaceful when I was reading this over him. And I would just say, Daddy, I'm gonna pray these blessings over you. And if you want to listen, you can listen. But if you just want to lay back and listen with your spirit and sleep, you can do that. And he would say, okay. And he would just close his eyes and lay back. But this truly was the most peaceful I saw him during the whole hospital stay. So I'm just going to read one short section. It's 2 pages, but I want to show you kind of an example of this, because these are amazing. So I would say to him, and you put your name or whoever you're reading this to in here, Daddy, I call your spirit to attention in the name of Jehovah Shalom. I bless you with peace that comes from being in the center of the will of the covenant-keeping God. I bless you with knowing in your life and in your spirit the presence of God amid chaos. I bless you with knowing in your spirit that God is pleased with you, even when the plans of man go awry. So, and like I said, it's longer, but these are just amazing. And then I also used my essential oils at the hospital. Those fragrances can bring a lot of peace. And if, there are different things, I would anoint Daddy's feet with oil and pray over him every day. I also did some emotional clearing. We store emotions in our body, and I would do emotional and spiritual clearing every day for him. But I had to share this story with you. If any of you have questions about any of those things, please message me or shoot me an email, or contact me on Facebook, however you want to get in touch with me. But let me know if there's something that I can help you with. That's why I started this podcast, to be of service to my listeners, because God intends for us all to be healed, and he will provide an amazing amount of healing here on earth. And then he will walk you into heaven if you let him, and heal you completely, because we'll never get completely healed here in this world. It's a fallen world. So anyway, if there's any way that I can help you, please connect with me. But I had to share Daddy's story because it gives me so much peace. So if there's a conversation you need to have with your loved one, have that conversation. Don't wait for a good time. There won't be one. Every single time you try, Satan will pop up and try to stop it. But you don't have to let him. That's your territory. So you get to claim that. And I wanted to share that with you because it was such a blessing and it provides such peace. And I want you to know that God has the same thing for me and for you if we just open up that communication and have a relationship with Him. So, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has blessed you in some way. If there's anything I can help you with, reach out for any kind of healing. If I can direct you in the right direction, to connect with the right people, or if you're looking for a natural solution to what you're going through, if you need prayer, I'm happy to do that. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and next week I'll be back with a regular interview of somebody who has found natural healing here on the earth and found a better way. So just speak blessings to all of you, all my listeners. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.